Good evening, folks. This is Deb Delapiana. And yes, I have been missing in action for a few days because I am updating the website. But I did promise you guys videos talking about the great legislation that the Republican Party has been passing on behalf of the people of America. We're going to start tonight with a very narrow focus. We're going to start with guns. And I think this is appropriate for where we are in history. So let's talk about what a launch into this discussion. On February 17th of this year, Representative Barry Moore of Alabama introduced Bill H.R. 1995, which would declare the AR-15 the national gun of the United States. Yes, folks, a bill to declare a weapon used in mass shootings to be the gun that signifies what America stands for. He has three co-sponsors for this bill: George Santos of New York, Lauren Boebert of Colorado, and Andrew Clyde of Georgia. So let's fast forward to Monday. By the way, that bill was introduced on February 17th when we had already had 85 mass shootings in just a little bit over a month of the new year. Let's fast forward now to this past Monday when we had the latest shooting. 3 children and 3 adults shot at the Covenant School in Nashville, Tennessee. So now we're, a month beyond the filing of that bill. And we actually have more mass shootings in America right now than we have days this year. We are up to 128. So let's talk about some of the chatter we hear about there regarding this particular shooting. So let's start with John Cornyn of Texas. He's a Republican senator. His comment is, quote, "I would say we've gone about as far as we can go unless somebody identifies some area that we didn't address." Really? You've gone as far as you can go. Well, how about an assault weapons ban? How about expanded background checks? How about people who have a history of mental health problems are not allowed to carry guns? Sorry, folks. It's as simple as that. Okay? We haven't gone anywhere. We do nothing with guns. Whatever Joe Biden has been able to do has been meager compared to what we really need to do in this country. We are the only country in the world that has a gun problem like this. And by the way, in the YouTube version of this video, all of these statistics will be in there for you. Here's Representative Tim Burchett. He is from Tennessee, where the shooting happened. This was his take. Quote, "I don't see any real role that we could do other than mess things up, honestly. I don't think you're going to stop gun violence. I think you got to change people's hearts. As a Christian," here we go. As a Christian, as we talk about it in church, and I've said this many times, I really think we need a revival in this country. So let's now hitch our star of safety onto the wagon of the great God in the sky. We're going to have a revival in this country. It's kind of like the other side of Marianne Williamson, so to speak. I'd like to remind everybody that this guy is an avid gun owner with an A rating from the NRA's Political Action Committee, which noted his opposition to bans on semi-automatic weapons. The Far-Right Heritage Foundation rates his voting record at 95%, including his opposition to the meager bipartisan gun bill that was passed earlier. That was passed with Joe Biden literally teeth pulling to get anybody to cooperate with him from the GOP. He has voted against universal background checks for gun purchases. He was also one of 125 Republicans who signed an amicus brief to overturn Joe Biden's victory. I just want to remind everybody about who these people actually are. Senator Marsha Blackburn of Tennessee called for stepped-up security at nation schools. Chuck and I are heartbroken to hear about the shooting at the Covenant School in Nashville, she said. "My office is in contact with federal, state, and local officials. We stand ready to assist. Thank you to the first responders working on site. Please join us in prayer for those affected. Marsha Blackburn has taken $1.3 million for the NRA. She voted against the bipartisan gun bill. Marjorie Taylor Greene on Nashville. You ready for her? How much hormones like testosterone and medications for mental illness was the transgender Nashville school shooter taking? Everyone could stop blaming guns now. Perhaps of all of these statements, hers is the most heinous. Out of all of these shootings this year, one of these shootings involved a transgender female, and that was this Monday shooting. By the way, being transgender is not a mental illness, but this shooter did have mental illness problems and should not have had a gun, even according to her own parents. They thought she had one gun. They found a 7-gun arsenal. When they finally did shoot her, she had an AR-15 and a Kel-Tec Sub 2000, which is a semi-automatic firearm, and a handgun. She was under mental health care from a doctor, okay? And let me repeat this again. Transgenderism is no longer considered a mental health problem. But Marjorie Taylor Greene just could not resist signifying that she was transgender, because that's how we continue the hate against a certain class of people in this country. But my point in all of this is what we have to do. Let me just state this again. The Second Amendment was never about individuals owning guns. I have a complete description of an analysis of what the Second Amendment is, using the verbiage of the times and the difference in the words and why they are used the way they are. All right? I also have a statement from Chief Justice Warren Burger. He made in 1991 in an interview. And by the way, he was a conservative. This is what he said. The Second Amendment, quote, has been the subject of one of the greatest pieces of fraud, I repeat the word fraud, on the American public by special interest groups that I have ever seen in my lifetime. The Second Amendment is not about you owning guns. It's not about Joe Smith down the street taking pictures to post on Facebook of his lawn covered in weapons. That is not what the Second Amendment was about. It was about a well-regulated militia. And that would be something like the National Guard. It would not qualify the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers as a well-regulated militia. The Second Amendment was interpreted the way it was under pressure from special interest groups, one of which was the National Rifle Association, which owns so many of our politicians. Marsha Blackburn is not the only one. In his lifetime, Mitt Romney has taken $13 million from the NRA. In Texas, people like Ted Cruz, $440,000 in the last go-around. Folks, what we need in America is this. We need expanded background checks. If you are under a doctor's care for mental health issues, you don't get to own a gun. It's as simple as that. Because the Second Amendment never guaranteed any of you a gun, but we don't have to quibble over this anymore, okay? If you are mentally ill, you don't get a gun. If you have a history of domestic violence, you do not get a gun. I don't care if you're a male or a female, okay? We need to stop buying high-capacity shit online. We need to ban automatic weapons and semi-automatic weapons. Let's not quibble over this anymore. Automatic weapons are already banned. We need to ban semi-automatic weapons. It is time for this country to do something. We keep hearing about how the Republicans care about the children. They don't give a rat's ass about the children because they won't take any action on this. The time is now. It is time now for you all to start flooding Congress with phone calls. If you want this to change, and it needs to change, I can hardly wait to see what the numbers are going to be by the end of the year if we're at 128 already. I will talk to you all later.